Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I take the dog out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Good afternoon, listeners. I'm Brendan Riley, and welcome to Pick Up and Deliver. It's a sunny and lovely afternoon here in suburban Chicago. It's March 25th, and the sun is shining. The weather is warm, not outrageous. It's quite a delight. I am enjoying the sun, walking my in-laws' dog, and I thought I would talk to you a little bit about some games I've been playing. This is going to be a double shot. Not quite as exciting as a triple shot, but I don't have 3 new games to talk to you about. But I did want to share 2 that I'm shooting from the hip. And then I also wanted to share one thing that I guess I would call check yourself before you wreck yourself. That's always a phrase I've enjoyed. Just reminding people to spot their own hypocrisy when it comes up. And I've got a little bit of that burning in my jeans right now. I don't know, burning in my jeans. What does that mean? Doesn't make any sense. Jumping out of my pants here. No, so I have mentioned a number of times that I am wicked excited for the Mantic Games release Hellboy, the board game, which kickstarted last summer and is due to deliver soon. I didn't quite go all in, but I went pretty far in, way more than I usually go for that sort of thing. But it's very exciting. It's a big, trashy, throw dice kind of game with lots of minis. Not normally the sort of thing I buy, but very exciting. Hellboy is a property I like a lot, and I'm just very excited to be trying out Hellboy the game. I've been watching it with excitement in a way that I don't usually do for Kickstarters. Don't usually watch them after they back. I kind of ignore them until they show up. But I've been very excited for Hellboy. So a friend of mine posted on Facebook just today that he had a copy of Hellboy the game. I was like, what? So excited! And I posted that I was very excited and jealous that he had gotten his before mine. And I felt, I'm not kidding here, literal jealousy. I was like, oh, I don't have mine yet. Why do you have yours? Oh! And then, reading the comments to his post on Facebook, I discovered that he did not back the game on Kickstarter. He was at C2E2 and bought a copy from Mantic. Apparently they had some left over from the Kickstarter and they're already selling them at cons. Oh, boy. I said in my head, that sucks. Why should someone else who didn't back the Kickstarter get to have the game before I do? If you've been listening a long time, you know that my general philosophy about Kickstarter companies is that they're generally cutting margins pretty close, and they should do everything they can to try to make it. And my general philosophy is that it's not that big a deal if they sell a few copies at a con, as long as they're making a good faith effort to deliver the game to the backers. But boy, it's really where the rubber meets the road, isn't it? It's how your emotions stack up when they rub up against your values. My values tell me I want small companies making interesting games to succeed, and part of that means making the most out of their conference appearances. Now, they've already sent all the games to distributors to be sent. It should be coming to me soon. And boy, yeah, intellectually, I don't have a problem with them selling a few copies at a con, and I'm trying to make peace with it. But I'm also just really frustrated emotionally that somebody else gets to play the game before I do. Isn't that crazy? I mean, it's not. It's human nature, right? But it's interesting to think about all of these threads I've seen where people just go on and rage post about how mad they are that they saw this happening to them for some other game. Particularly when the idea is that the backers on Kickstarter are the ones taking the risk, and we should be the first ones to get the game. That's part of what you're paying for. First access. So, an interesting moment of self-awareness stemming up there. And I certainly can say I empathize a bit more now with people in the past that I've seen just raging angry when they have discovered this happening. And I've always said I thought it shouldn't be in the plan for a game company to do this. The plan should be to send the game out. But I would rather have a company sell a few copies at a con that they had planned to go to months ahead and have a better chance of surviving as a company to sell more games later than say, well, we didn't deliver the games yet, so we're just going to go to this con and not sell anything, and then lose money on going to the con and that sort of thing. So there might be an argument to be made that Mantic Games has plenty of product in their other games that they could have sold, and they didn't really need to be selling the brand new thing that I don't have yet. But all of that is sort of, I don't know, negotiating with myself over my feelings versus my values. So I'm curious what you think about all of this. Has this ever happened to you, and how did you react? I certainly cannot claim that I know the answer to this question. All right. Segment 2, a trip to the store. So my wife and I have a long tradition of occasionally just going to the store, usually a bookstore, kind of going a little bananas. Not crazy, but we'll go to the bookstore and we'll buy a few books. With that in mind, I always enjoy if we go to Barnes & Noble or Half Price Books, because I can usually find a game that I want that is less expensive or the same as the couple books my wife is getting, and then I'll get a book and a game and she'll get 3 books or 4 books or something. And we can both enjoy the consumerism that is America. So anyway, the other day we went to Half Price Books and I was looking around, and our Half Price Books actually has a pretty good selection of used games. There were a number of it looked like somebody who was kind of a Kickstarter addict stopped by and dropped off a bunch of stuff, because I saw a bunch of games there that had been Kickstarters. They had like Dragoon and the expansion, which is a game that I remember prominently from a few years ago. But they were asking enough that I didn't want to buy that. And they had a number of other games that look enticing enough for me to look them up on Board Game Geek or consider them. But generally, Half Price Books tends to price their games a little higher than I like for a used game. And often the price is comparable, if not more, than I could pay for a new copy on Amazon. So I'm not going to plunk down that. But every now and again, they'll have a deal, something that I see that's attractive. And they had 2 games this time that looked interesting. One was a Reiner Knizia game called Res Publica. It looks like a filler style game where you're doing set collection. Nothing amazing, but it was $10. So I thought I'd give it a try. You can almost always give a Reiner Knizia game a try for $10. It was in the 5s, rated in the 5s on Board Game Geek, so I'm not expecting anything amazing. But usually there's something interesting about a Reiner Knizia game, and it's worth $10 to me to try it out a little bit. And then the other one I tried out, or the other one I picked up, I'm very happy about. I found this game called Number 9, and it's actually not called Number 9, it's called Number 9. This is a game that got a lot of buzz a couple years ago. It seemed like all the podcasts talked about it for 5 minutes. So Z-Man must have sent copies to everybody. Everyone played it. They thought it was interesting. They put it away. Because it really is. It's a game that takes like 10 to 15 minutes to play. It's an excellent beginning of the night or end of the night kind of game. Cute, easy to play. I put it in the same category as Scarabia, which is another one I got for Christmas this year. Sort of pretty easy to play. I'd say the one thing about Scarabia is the box is way too big. I mean, it actually is about the right size for the components, but it feels like it doesn't. It's a light game, so the box shouldn't be as big as it is. But number 9, it's an interesting idea. What it is, you have polyomino tiles shaped like numbers between 0 and 9, and you have a deck of cards. And the way it works is you flip a card and it shows a number 0 through 9, and everybody takes a tile of that number and puts it on in their tableau, and it has to be touching one of the other numbers in your tableau, and you're trying to kind of slot them together. They're all awkwardly shaped, so they don't slot together very nicely. And if you put it on the table flat, it just needs to be touching one other tile. Then after you've done that a few times, then you can start putting them on the first level up. So instead of being on the table, you're having them on top of other tiles. And when you do that, the rule is it can't be over an empty space. It has to only be over tiles, and it has to be touching at least 2 tiles. So you can't just stack 6s on top of each other, because it has to be touching 2 tiles. And so what you're trying to do is build a grid, or build a sort of layer on the bottom that you can use to start building a layer above that you can then use to start building a layer above that. And the goal is to get the numbers as high off the ground as you can, because they score based on the level they're on. So all the tiles that are on the table at the end of the game are worth 0 points. Any tile that you put on top, one level up, it's on level 1, so it's worth 1 times the value of the tile. So an 8 on level 1 is worth 8 points. But you can see where this is going. Any tile that's on level 2, which, keep in mind, again, has to be over complete flat tiles on level 1, can't have any empty spaces hanging over, that tile is now worth twice its number. And then anything that you can get onto level 3 is worth 3 times its number. So very quickly the points rocket up if you can get some of the higher number tiles up on level 2, or heaven help you, level 3. It's a very simple game, really fun as an end of the night filler game. I paid $15 for it, which is definitely below MSRP given the size of the box. I can't imagine at the game store it's got to be a $25 game, I would think, by the box size. It feels like it should be a $15 game though. It's very light, but an excellent little filler for the end of the night. So that's number 9. I would call it Shootin' from the hip, but generally I call a game that when I feel like I've only played it a little and I have a taste of it, but I don't have the measure of the game yet. Honestly, I've played number 9 3 times. We played it 3 times in one sitting. And after the 3rd play, I feel like I have the measure of the game. It's fun. We'll keep it around for a while. It's definitely a good one to introduce when we feel like a short game. But it's pretty light, and you have the sense of it without too much effort. So that's number 9 from Z-Man. I forget the name of the designer. Segment 3, Shootin' from the hip, Transatlantic. So one of the games you'll recall from last November, I think, was the last time I did my top wants list. One of the games that I had on there that was pretty near the top after Underwater Cities was the Mac Gerts game, Transatlantic. Now, Mac Gerts is the, I think some people call him the Rondel King. I don't know why, though, because I haven't played any of his Rondel games. He is best known, I think, for Concordia. Concordia is a really interesting not area control game. I don't even know what you call it. Market game, where you are sending out workers, you're building trading posts, you're gathering resources, and you're getting these cards. And what makes the game really intriguing is there are all these different ways to manipulate what's going on the board. And at the end of the game, you score based on a few different elements multiplied by the number of cards you have in a given category. So there's this weird element where you're doing all these things throughout the game, and then you're also buying cards, and the cards let you do more things, but the cards also become the scoring mechanism. So sometimes you have this thing where like you want to use a particular scoring mechanism, but the card you're getting doesn't really help you advance that scoring mechanism very much. It's an interesting game that I've played once in person, and we screwed up some of the rules. And then I've played it, or maybe I didn't understand them, but I think we scored the game wrong. And then I've played it 3 or 4 times now on Boîte à Jeux, which gives me a better sense of how the game works. But playing it on Boîte à Jeux is not really like playing it, though I'm logging it as a play. But when you play a game asynchronously over weeks, you don't get the same sense of the game that you would get if you played it all at once at the table. So I certainly wouldn't say I'm an experienced Concordia player. But I will say, having played it once at the table and played it several times on Boîte à Jeux, something about the relationship between the map, the trading houses, the cards, the resources you buy, the different actions you can take, I find it really hard to conceive of how the game pieces together. That I have a very difficult time developing much of a strategy, except to go for the same strategy I have every time, which is build trading houses in as many different countries as I can and try to get the cards that give me points for every country I have a trading house in, which is the way I played the very first game of Concordia that I played. One of the things I really liked about the idea of Transatlantic was people said the basic description was it has a feel of Concordia, but a little bit easier to grasp and a little faster. And those both sound interesting to me. Also, the theme is much more interesting. It's about building and sailing ships in the age of steam. The era from the mid-1800s to the early 1900s, when steamships were sort of becoming the thing. And that's an element that I find really exciting and want to have and enjoy that theme. So, with that in mind, Transatlantic has been on my radar for a while, and I had some Amazon points to burn, so I picked it up. And I did get an opportunity to play it. I played a practice game by myself, playing two-handed, and then I played a round of it with my wife, and we had a good deal of fun. So, Transatlantic functions similar to Concordia in a number of ways. First off, in Transatlantic you have a hand of cards, something like 7 cards to start, and each card does a different thing, and one of the cards picks up all the other cards. So that's like Concordia. You also have these ships on the board, and the ships are your main scoring engine, and you have these trading houses that you put out, and the trading houses give you points, the ships give you money, the money lets you buy more ships. You also are filling up this grid with these trade tokens, which make your ships more valuable. Then there's also a dock over on the side where the more ships of a particular color are there, the more valuable the ships of that color are. But the more ships that are in the dock of a particular color, the fewer ships there are of that color available in the game. So if at the beginning of the game, there's 4 or 5 blue ships over in the dock. Now, blue ships are worth more, so you want to get blue ships, but there won't be as many blue ships to play with. If you're playing a 4-player game, the dock starts empty, and over the course of the game it fills up, which means there's a lot of strategy in figuring out, because every time you buy ships, you send 1 ship to the docks. The way it works is when you take the buy ships action, you can take 1 or 2 ships from the ship row once you pay their cost. And then the next available ship in the ship row goes to the docks, and no one gets to buy it, and it adds to the scoring profile of that color. So it makes for it's a really interesting tactical decision there. I liked it a lot. Transatlantic, I found it really fun. I suspect it's the sort of game where from game to game, your strategy isn't going to change dramatically. It's about working the angles, picking up cards, it's more tactics than strategy. But I found it really satisfying and really interesting, and I think that it's exactly the kind of game that would be fun to play a couple times a year. And I found I could understand it better. I could understand its systems better than I was able to with Concordia, and I like the theme better. So my shooting from the hip verdict, Transatlantic is really fun, and I would encourage you to play it if you get a chance. I will certainly have it in my game bag for the foreseeable future as I try to get other plays of it in. It is a longer game, probably runs 2 hours with the teach, maybe 2.5. So not generally a game you're going to be able to just toss out on the table on any given night, but still a fun time, and I'm looking forward to playing it. Also, my wife said she would play it more, or again, which is always a good sign. So, what have you been playing lately? When have you had a Kickstarter deliver to stores before it delivered to your door? Tell me what else is going on in your gaming life. Drop over Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know what's happening with you. Thanks for joining me. I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye. All right, part 2, shooting from the hip. You know, I'm not even gonna call this a shooting from the hip, just a game I played. So segment 2 of the episode today is gonna be called A Trip to the Suburbs. I don't know, a trip to the store. There you go, a trip to the store.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.